recognizing that throughout the nation and indeed throughout the world, that it has resources that it can direct and focus into stopping the violence.
Well, what it is, we really feel that people, not just youngsters, have begun to create an atmosphere of violence by solving problems and resolving problems with weapons and ultimately killing and destroying people's lives. So what we're about, we want to empower people to have knowledge of stopping conflicts and resolving conflicts with other means, peaceful means, and empowering people to know that there are other ways to solve problems so we can have a safe place to live and a safe place to learn.
Very good. You know, Mr. Wingfield, let's look at the juvenile court system, because I think what we're saying here in essence is that once this violence spills over, I think you're the first recipient of it one way or the other. And let's tell us about the juvenile court system.
Okay.
Exactly what does that consist of and how does it operate?
Okay, well, first of all, let me just thank the Links for the contributions that they have made over the years to the juvenile court system. And that's on behalf of Judge Shukoff and the entire court system. When you come into the new building, a new facility that we have, you'll see engraved on the wall is an old African proverb that it takes an entire village to raise a single child. And I think Judge Shukoff is some years ahead in Tennessee in that he has recognized that juvenile court would not be able to handle all of the kids. There's no way possible we could do it if we did not have the support of prevention and intervention programs. And I think that Judge Shukoff has shown great leadership in this. In basically, there's not one program from the community that has come to juvenile court that he has not tried to support, tried to help gain funding to, and increase participation. He's also done more than any other judge in the history of the state of Tennessee that I know of to get grants and funding for intervention and prevention programs. And you're correct. What we do, we are the recipients of every failure. And this is one thing that people really need to understand about juvenile court, in that our primary function is to enforce the laws of the federal government, state of Tennessee, and Nashville-Davidson County. And Judge Shukoff and the referees that operate there really have a pretty strict interpretation of the law that they must go by. Just because they're judges does not mean they can do anything they want to do.
Good. There's a law even for them.
And, and people think that juvenile court has the authority and autonomy to do anything it wants to do. But if they do something that is not in compliance with the law, it will be appealed and overturned. And this is why so many groups and individuals have a hard time understanding why they make the decisions that they make. The federal government has real strict guidelines on what you can do and what you can't do that have come over the years to protect children and to protect families. One of the positive things that has been in the newspaper has been that there appears to be a decrease in some crimes that have been committed. But those of us who are professionals in the field recognize that this is not really a decrease, this is a pause. Almost like the cocking of a shotgun or the pulling of a trigger. And the way things are going now, professionals in my field never thought we would have to deal with some of the situations we're dealing with at this particular time.
What do you mean, the things?
Well, I worked for Meharry Alcohol and Drug Abuse Program in the 70s. And we were working with heroin addicts, trying to do drug treatment at that time. At that time, cocaine was a luxury type drug, and we would never have predicted that cocaine would be available in the form of crack on the streets, available at $5 and $10 a dose. Nor would we have ever predicted that it had the kinds of impact that it has had on families in all communities across the board. So the kinds of challenges we're seeing, no one in our society could have predicted, nor could we have prepared for it, because the growth and spread is geometrical, so to speak, rather than just numerical. And these are the kinds of things that we're seeing, and it's impacting children in a way that we never thought we'd see it before. Even in the old days when we had mothers who were impaired as far as an alcohol problem or a drug problem, we still would be able to make sure that the kids were taken care of. There was still support enough for her to have some pride in her family and be able to do something, and we could usually handle the number of cases where that didn't happen. The system could really handle it. With this crack cocaine and the changes that we've seen with our youth, in that, one, a lot of our young people, and this is where our violence comes from, have really lost hope in the future and almost are welcoming death to a certain extent. Where you read all the time, the children are planning their funerals and things like this. And we had always had a time when kids were hopeful for the future, looked for and embraced life. We're coming across a group of people who are addicted to drugs and are not necessarily interested in preserving life, but just want to have a good time and are not afraid of death or dying or taking other people with them.
Okay.
And it's something different.
Dr. Ridley, and I think that within that framework, we talk about stopping the violence. It almost seems as if perhaps there might not be. I mean, that's a very, very gloomy picture that has been painted in terms of some of the situations. And of course, certainly we understand that Mr. Wingfield is right there in the midst of all of this, being with the juvenile court system. But what could, I mean, what are some of your...
That's our concern, that it's growing, you know, this violence. And we are concerned that the adults, not only youngsters, but it's adults, and the youngsters are modeling behavior that they have found with the adults. And so what we want to do with the links of planning in collaboration with the Department of Education is to set up a plan wherein the whole city will get involved. We are hoping that everybody will embrace this, from the mayor's office to the residential housing. We have invited everybody to come to our program. We are providing an avenue, providing information, knowledge, strategies, solutions, and an avenue wherein we can meet, formulate these plans, and put them into action. And we want everybody to come out to join in with us, the links. We can't do it by ourselves. And no one group can do it by itself. I think it's going, as he said, Mr. Wingfield said, it takes the whole village to raise a single child. We are saying it takes the whole country and the whole nation to raise our youth. And if we don't get out there and do it, we can't wait for somebody else to do it. We've got to get out there and do it ourselves. Because I think that everybody's lives, every family's lives has been touched with this violence problem. And what we are about is bringing about some solutions. We are planning 3 teleconferences that will give us some decision-making tools, some solutions and strategies where we can put them together and really formulate a plan for Nashville. And
so what you're saying is it's not just enough to want to stop the violence.
That's right.
But you've got to have the community involved, and you've got to have a plan.
And we've got to have a commitment.
And you're saying that you have the plan, and you've got the strategy and everything that's all laid out.
That's right.
And now all you need are the people to cooperate and to deal with it if they are really concerned about this issue of stopping the violence this morning. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's no doubt that this is the correct approach. One of the things that I think the Nashville community needs to become aware of is that native Nashvillians and people from Nashville have always thought of Nashville as a small town, okay? And when I came here, I think they had two skyscrapers at that time, the LNC and then the one that the state just moved into. But Nashville now is a major metropolitan area. It is no longer a small town. We want to hold on to our small town values, but we have to adjust to the reality that we're going to have big city problems. And one of the things that people need to be aware of is, with the changes that are going around the country and Nashville, is that we no longer have the luxury to remain uninvolved. Okay, I work at this professionally, she works at it professionally. We both volunteer our time and work with nonprofit organizations in order to help, like the Links. And I don't think any person in Nashville can remain uninvolved in what's happening with our young people and our youth. And I kind of, it sounded like it was a gloomy picture, and the reality of it is gloomy, but it's not without hope. Okay, these children did not get to be this way by themselves, okay, and they won't change by themselves. We can impact our young people and our youth if we have a strategy, if we have a plan, and above all things, if we work together towards a common goal.
I know not long ago, Dr. Ridley, the